The question is, can conflicting stories and narratives exist within my imaginary world? Don't listen, Chutney. It's not imaginary. We know that it's real. We know that it's real. So, can conflicting stories and narratives exist within my imaginary world? And if so, how does it work? So, of course, so it's not imaginary, is it? It's real. Um, so it's about my paracosm, which is called Chutasia, and Chutasia is the world that Chutney comes from. So the first level of answering this question would be just like on Earth, many of us have different perceptions of things, different opinions on things. Even when it comes to truth, some of us disagree about what is true and what is not. You have that in Chutasia. So when we learn about Chutasia and we learn about events in Chutasia, it may be that if you asked another hedgehog how a particular event went down, that they would tell us a different story. So that's something to bear in mind when we think about whether narratives make sense or whether stories conflict. Another very key thing about Chutasia is, how do we know about Chutasia? How do we get these stories from Chutasia in the first place? Well, we learn about them from our dear friend here, Chutney. And so we're completely reliant pretty much on Chutney, well, only on Chutney, to tell us about Chutasia. And Chutney is not without her flaws. So even on this level, there's Chutney might forget, Chutney might misremember something, Chutney might miss details. Or then there's the more cheeky aspects. Chutney might embellish stories, Chutney might add things, Chutney might change stories to make her seem cooler and more exciting. I don't know. So everything that we know about Chutasia is being told to us by a potentially unreliable narrator. So if there are things that conflict in Chutasia, it might be that the conflict is here and not in the world. Then the next level of this is, well, Chutney is telling us these things from Chutasia, but how, her mouth doesn't open. She's not, she is a stuffed animal. I don't know if you guys, maybe you guys think I'm crazy, but she is a stuffed animal. So how do we get these stories from her? Well, through her telepathy with me, of course. So, it relies upon my ability to get these untrustworthy stories from untrustworthy. It's a bit harsh, isn't it? To get these stories from Chutney, you're relying on me. So then there's all the flaws that I might introduce, whether I remember correctly what Chutney is telling me, whether I'm misrepresenting Chutney. There were cases that when I was younger, so I got Chutney when I was 9, and there are some stories and some things that we've recorded about Chutasia from back then. It seems to be that over time our telepathy has got stronger. So some of those earlier divinations, divination's not the right word, some of those earlier stories that came from Chutney might have been wrong because of issues with the telepathy, and then as our telepathy has got stronger, we've gone back and corrected some of the things that seemed a bit dodgy. So that might also explain conflicting information. The next step of this, I realize, so with every step it's getting a bit more complicated and a little bit weirder. Well, weird is not fair, weird is, just not what we're used to. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. So the next step would be that there are some interesting philosophical aspects of the way that Chutney and Chutasia and the timelines interact. It seems to be, so there's something called the time soup, and I have talked about the time soup before. And the time soup is this realm that Chutney traveled through. She entered an interdimensional time travel microwave. I'll link the video in the description where I go through this in more depth. But yeah, she goes through this interdimensional time travel microwave. She enters the time soup. She leaves the Chutasia timeline. So we like to say that she floats like a crouton in the time soup. And then she comes into the Earth timeline where she's attracted to me because we're sort of like two sides of the same essence or something like that. So she's attracted to me, and that's also how we have our telepathy, of course. There are, when these timeline noodles in the time soup bump together, there can be a phenomenon called an influential leak. And this is when something that's happening on Earth or something that's happening in Chutasia can transfer onto other timelines when the noodles bump together. And that's why you sometimes get coincidences. For example, I think that was even the example I used in that video. the language that we're speaking. We'd call this language the English language. They'd call it Chutasian, presumably, I think, because that it leaked from the Earth timeline onto the Chutasian timeline. So when you've got this concept of information linking between timelines, and then there is also this concept that because the timelines can be wiggly, we can kind of leak information into the future of Chutasia or into the past of Chutasia. So that can be why something that happens right now, maybe we look at this hair clip and it creates an influential leak in the time soup. A bit complicated. I'm going to try to keep this simple. I won't explain all the mechanism. But let's say that this creates an influential leak. It could leak onto Chutney's past. So then Chutney is telling us about something that happened, back in the day that relates to this hair clip, which is in our present. Sorry. I'm not stupid, I promise. Or maybe I am. I don't know. It's for you to judge. Anyway, so the way the influential leaks work is into the future and into the past. So then there starts to become questions asked about how much or how little of Chutasia is an influential leak. So if we say that, like, I don't know, if 20% of, maybe that's a bit high, but there's just these things like sometimes food is the same, or sometimes words are the same, or sometimes events seem to echo in some way. But if you take that to the extreme, let's imagine that the entirety of Chutasia was an influential leak. Let me explain what that would mean. That could mean that everything that Chutney tells us about Chutasia, or this thing with the hair clip, that anything that we say or discuss or any idea that we have leaks into the time soup, onto the timeline noodle, and becomes real in Chutasia. So if it were the case, hold on, I'm not good with science, but I hope you're following. It could be, in the most extreme circumstances, that Chutasia is completely made up. Made up is used questionably here. I'll tell you why in a minute. Completely made up by Chutney and me. I don't know how you separate Chutney and me. If the whole thing was an influential leak, you could leak the past, you could leak the future, you could leak geography, you could leak history, you could leak everything. If everything just leaks off the Earth timeline onto the Chutasia timeline, then the whole of Chutasia is has its source on Earth through things that we're saying or ideas that we're having. And if we can leak into the past and we can leak into the future, where is it going with that? Then all of Chutasian history could be created in a short period of time on the Earth timeline. So the reason why I say made up is if it makes it real, like the influential leaks create real things, then they're still true. Hold on. I don't know if I'm following my own ideas here. The influential leak, so if we say, I don't know, I don't want to like add things to Chutasia that are a bit crap, but let's say that there is a sea monster, a mythical sea monster in Chutasia that has a mouth like a claw clip. Is there?
Yes, how do you know about this? How did she know about that?
Right? So it leaked real time, right? I mean, or there really is a sea creature, but it doesn't really matter what order it's in. So I'm saying, is there a sea creature with this hair clip? But if that's leaking into what always was on Chutasia, then Chutney's memories are immediately updated with the memory of the fish with the claw clip mouth, in which she says, yes, that's true, because it always was true, because the influential leak leaked onto the past of Chutasia. I'm losing my mind. Someone more philosophically minded, please rewrite and re-explain everything that I've just said. But I think we might have gone down a rabbit hole here. So she looked like she was shaking them out. She was just my hand was shaking. I'm a bit nervous. So it could mean that basically we are just making Chutasia, and that everything we say about Chutasia and all the ideas that we have about Chutasia just become immediately true about Chutasia. And you're none the wiser, because if we leak things into the past, then you wouldn't even know that you didn't even have that memory. I don't know. Okay. But the next thing would be, on top of that, then, to make it more complicated, is that we're aware of this. We're aware that we're creating influential leaks. So that means that we wield some sort of power, actually. Um, and so we talk about how maybe when Chutney returns to Chutasia one day, she might be seen as some sort of god, because in a way she does have some sort of godlike function, because she will have potentially created the world, or created parts of the world, or influenced the world. So Chutney will probably be seen as some sort of god or prophet when she returns, or at least that, well, that's what we're leaking onto Chutasia. So that is what will happen. We can say the future. Chutney will be seen as some sort of god. We have some theories and ideas about what that is and how that fits. And where was I going with that? Yes, and also that it means that we kind of know that we can add things just for fun. So you can add some stupid things. It's not fair. You don't want me to add stupid things. Then the final thing would just be a sort of general philosophical thing, like you're saying, can conflicting stories and narratives exist within the world? Well, it could be that in the world of Chutasia, it's not considered conflicting. Like maybe what you would consider impossible to sort of reconcile on Earth, 1 + 1 = 2, maybe on Chutasia 1 + 1 could equal 3. So even just this concept of conflict, I don't know if it's different in Chutasia. I don't really know. But like, I would just question, like, maybe there can be things that appear to conflict in their world. All right. I don't know how we did on that. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this, if you managed to understand any of it. If you feel like rewriting all of that for me in nice, neat bullet point format, that would be great. Thanks, guys. Right. Okay. If you have a question, you can leave it below and I will answer it with the same level of complexity and dedication, I'm sure. All right. See you all next time. Bye bye.